Hello, everyone. Let's give it one more moment before we get started. Let folks join.
Hola a todos. Vamos a tomar un momento más antes de dar inicio a la sesión. Vamos a darle tiempo a que se unan más personas.
Whenever you're ready, Catherine.
Okay, welcome everybody. Before we begin, Francisco, would you like to talk about the language interpretation?
Absolutely. Thank you, Catherine. My name is Francisco Picao. I'm from Language Access LLC. And as you probably all know, the City and County of Denver makes a big effort to try to communicate with all residents in the city. And interpretation is regularly offered at all public meetings. In order to take advantage of the interpretation channel, you can see the globe on the bottom right of your screen. Click on interpretation and select the language of your choice. Bienvenidos a todos a este programa de, mi nombre es Francisco Picado, yo trabajo con Language Access LLC y la ciudad pone mucho esfuerzo para asegurarse de que todos sus residentes puedan participar en las reuniones públicas y para poder disfrutar de la interpretación que estamos ofreciendo simultáneamente esta noche. Si puede, por favor, seleccionar el globito en la parte inferior derecha de su pantalla y escoger el idioma de su preferencia. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Francisco. So welcome everybody. We have a very packed agenda this evening, and so glad that you could join us. We have three major items, as you can see on the agenda slide here. 44th Avenue and the Broadway pedestrian improvements, and Kyle is going to talk to us about that. Lincoln and I-70 underpass, the improvements for the pedestrian paths there that will be led by Brendan, and then the Washington Street design and construction, and Mark will be helping us in that one. I want you to, throughout the presentation, I just want you to let you know that we're going to be watching for your comments and your questions. And so because we have a slide up, I have to be, I may not always see your hand raised. So please, if you can, use your the button at the bottom of the screen to raise your hand. That's really helpful to me. But if I don't see you, somebody else is watching, or else just shout out and say you have a question or you want more information throughout the presentations. So with that, I think we'll begin with the 44th Avenue and the Broadway pedestrian improvements. And Kyle.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kyle Castanelli. I'm a senior project manager with the City and County of Denver. I'm in the DOTI department, and I am in charge of all the accessibility needs across Denver. And so I have been asked to help out with this sidewalk implementation to help out the disability community. And so currently I have a project that's going to be going underway at 44th Avenue and Broadway. And so I have all the plans next to me, but we're going to show you a few of the abbreviated floor plans and site plans and details of what we're going to be implementing into your community. So currently we have bid out and selected a general contractor who is going to be Sky Blue Builders, and they are going to be overseen by GH Phipps Construction. If you've seen the red trucks around town, that is them, and they're going to be the construction managers, and they're going to be working hand in hand with myself. And we plan to redo a lot of the pedestrian sidewalks along 44th Avenue there as it crosses the bridge on the south side. And then as it goes towards Broadway, can we go to the next slide? I believe there's a better detail on that. Yes, pedestrian goals. This looks more into it. So this is getting into like what the location looks like now. But what we're planning on doing is right at that corner. If you take a look at the left-hand photo where there's that semi truck, we're going to be implementing a switchback ramp that is going to allow for the disability community to use if you have some needs to get up this steep hill. And so we are currently planned to begin construction sometime in the beginning to middle of November. And then the construction will take about 3 to 4 months maximum, as long as we don't have the winter like we did last year. Because the last thing that we need is asphalt. And so with asphalt, it requires an increasing temperature for us to pave. And so that will finish out our project. Obviously, our sidewalk is made of concrete, but that also needs good weather conditions as well. So we plan to start mid-November and be finished by mid-March or so. And this will be a brand new sidewalk implementation to assist with people crossing that bridge without having to go. If you take a look at this photo, currently you have to walk on the west side of Broadway all the way to the north where it's at 44th, and then come around back on the other side of that peninsula all the way back and around. And even on that, there's tons of cracks. Slope is excessive, and the width does not meet any of the ADA requirements. So we are going to make this a Denver sized sidewalk that also meets ADA regulations. So that is our plan. Yeah, that's the picture I've been looking for. There it is. I knew it was in there. So you can see on this photo, at that point where it curves on 44th Avenue, you can either take 2 routes where you're going to be kind of doing a switchback through the stairs with various landings, or you go to the north, to the right, and you can do a longer switchback ramp, but it's still less steep than going on the existing sidewalk that you have right there. So it's going to be a really nice feature, a really nice add to give back to the community. It's a lot of money that we've been asking for, and we are finally putting it into place. So please, we will be improving and installing new curb and gutter to assist with the drainage issues in this area as well. Because right now it's just kind of flowing into the middle of the street and not going into the stormwater sewer system. So we are going to do a better job of that and make a better interpretation of how the road is supposed to curve. So do I leave it open to questions? There they are. Oh, and the email's on there. All right. No, if you need me, of course. No, I am available at any time. Give me an email or a phone call, 720-865-3165, and I can assist you. The biggest thing that I want you guys to know is during construction, any adjacent property owners, if you are upset or if it's not something that you were expecting, if you can't get through for something like that, please contact 311 or please contact online at the City and County of Denver. All of those questions get filtered through that can help you. We will be having temporary shutdowns throughout the process, but not for the whole thing. So if that answers any questions that are out there on that bridge, if you can go a couple slides back to showing where it is on that along that bridge, we will have to shut down one side. And when we do that one side, we'll have flaggers and people guiding any traffic around that area. But we do not plan to shut this thing down for extended periods of time. So,
Thank you, Kyle. Angela, I see your hand raised.
Yes, I hope you can hear me. I have a cold. So
Yes, we
my
can.
question to you, Kyle, is how are you going to let the community know that you're going to do this? Are you going to flyer the community to let them know because they don't all do social media?
absolutely. No, I'm glad you asked that question. I'm going to hand it over to Dean. Dean and Nora with NHN are my consultants that are going to be helping out with flyers. But I believe they have a 48-hour flyer and another flyer that will go out to all the adjacent property owners.
So Kyle, I'm not sure that Dean and Nora are on the call at this stage, but Angela, I can just answer that for you. That they have been part of this process, and actually we just all met last week to go through details of this. So they are ready and poised to flyer the street, all the properties adjacent to it, even those within the area that would be impacted by any kind of temporary closures or any kind of construction impacts. I think we don't have that start date yet, so as soon as we do, they would get that rolling with the individual property owners.
You're correct. We are in the process of executing the contract. We've completed the bid. We've gone through all the insurance requirements. Now we're just waiting for the last and final signature. So once that goes through, we give them 2 to 3 weeks to mobilize. And my approximation date is most likely the beginning to middle of November, but we will see how long it actually takes. So we will be starting Q4 of this year and ending end of Q1 of next year, if you want to keep in generalities.
Great question. Thanks, Angela. Are there any other questions about the construction or the design?
Awesome. Well, again, if you want to go to the next slide with my email address, unfortunately, I'm going to have to drop off the call. But please contact me at any point if anything comes up. Recently, we had a member of the community reach out because there wasn't good access along the road for one of her sons that had a disability. And within 24 hours, we had everything wrapped up and fixed for them. And so what I want to let you know is that we do absolutely everything we can for you guys, and we hear you, and we will make sure that everything is right. So just reach out to me, or more importantly, 311, and we will get you taken care of.
Angela, I see your hand up again.
Yes, Kyle, before you leave, I don't know if you noticed all the big weeds that are there that are growing. It makes it difficult for people who are coming off the bridge or going on the bridge to be able to see where they're going. We have called 311. We know we're supposed to do that. Then maybe you have a little bit more leverage than we do.
Well, you can with me. So I'm the hammer. So during this
Awesome.
project.
Thank you.
So are you, if you go back a page, are you saying that the weeds are on that hill or where? Because I can tell you that this entire thing is going to be excavated pretty much. I mean, there's going to be a few areas that we're not touching, but this whole thing is going to be turned and the weeds will be gone. So
Yeah,
but
it's
yes, they will come back
the whole
over
thing going along right there along where, I don't know if you know where Prodigy Coffee House is, but
Mhm.
it goes all along that whole part. I'm 5 feet tall and the weeds are as tall as I am. And that's not very tall, but still.
I can reach out to Parks maybe and find out what we can do about that during construction. That is something that maybe I can handle. I'll take a note of it, and when I'm out there, I'll be at one of these meetings again. I'm not sure how, Chris, how long we do these monthly, I believe, or is it quarterly?
Yes,
Yeah, monthly.
monthly.
Monthly. Well, on the next one, when we actually get started or something, if you want to join and attend this, and maybe we can meet in person sometime when I'm actually out there, I can understand
Yeah,
where you're talking
absolutely.
about, and maybe we can help out. So
All right. Thank you so much. And Chris also has my contact information. Thank you so much.
great, of course. Anything
Thank you,
else from you
Kyle. Thank
guys?
you, Angela. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions, so we're going to move along to the I-70 and Lincoln Underpass project data with Brendan. Brendan, take it away.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me. Thanks for letting us have the time to provide an update about this project. Brendan Paradise, I'm with Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, helping to manage this project. So just wanted to use the time today to provide a brief update about where we're at with the project and what to look forward to. So we can continue on. Just for some background, this project was identified in the 2017 Elevate Denver Go Bond. So we're just moving forward on what the goals were included in that bond as part of that program. So our goal and what was included in the bond for this project specifically was to improve lighting at the underpass under I-70 on Lincoln between 46th Avenue to the north and 46th Avenue to the south on Lincoln under the underpass, and to also aim to improve the pedestrian crossings at these locations on either side of the underpass as well. So that's what we're hoping this project can really help address and meet the goals that are set forth in the Elevate Denver Go Bond initiative. And that's kind of where this project came out of fruition from. So I'm also here with our consultants that are helping to really be in the design of the project, who can go through more of the project details. And I'll let Jason kind of talk more about the actual details about what we're moving forward with. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, thank you. So this is specifically, as Brendan said, we're doing pedestrian improvements at both the intersections of Lincoln and 46 on the north and south side of I-70, plus some pedestrian lighting improvements under the underpass itself. Sorry, I have a foster dog that decided to bark right now, if you hear that in the background. So this is actually the south side of I-70. And so what this is showing is basically a plan view looking down at the proposed improvement. So what we're proposing to do is new curb and gutter, curb extensions to reduce the pedestrian crossing width, both going east and west along Lincoln and north and south along 47th. And also improved striping and some minor drainage improvements. You know, if you go out there right now, you can see that a lot of the asphalt is not in great shape. So the hope is with this, or the goal is to reduce the crossing width and to also reduce traffic speeds through this area. If you want to go to the next slide. Very similar, this is the north side of I-70. So we're doing curb extensions again, pedestrian ramps that are directional, both going east and west across Lincoln, north and south across 46. Again, more passive traffic calming features, reducing the width of the travel lane to provide a little bit of restriction to slow people down as they go through that. Next slide, please. And then here are the lighting improvements. So the areas in green, there's already the glow pedestrian lights that are underneath the underpass. A lot of them currently do not work. So what we'll be doing is replacing with LED fixtures the existing. So they'll be a little bit brighter and they'll actually work, which will greatly help. There's also up on the bridge itself, connected to the bridge, there's downcast lighting that goes into the pedestrian areas. We'll be replacing those as well. A couple of them work, a couple of the others don't work. And then in the blue boxes on either side, so both on the north and south side of the underpass, we'll be adding additional pedestrian lighting. And the goal of that is just to create a little bit more visibility actually into the underpass itself. So helping to improve not only the visibility when you're actually under it, but actually, you know, when you're either on either side of the underpass, being able to see into it. Next slide. Jenny, you want to take this?
Yeah, hi everyone. Jenny. I'm also with the Consor consulting team supporting Dottie on this project. So just a brief look at the project schedule. We're currently in the design process and are planning to wrap that up early next year. And then we'll move towards the procurement process of figuring out contractors and materials and other details. So looking at construction lasting 6 to 9 months, mid to late 2024. And we'll of course be working with Dottie on proper outreach to residents in the area prior to starting construction. And just a quick nod to the webpage, which I'll pop in the chat. I imagine many of you may be familiar with, but there's kind of an accordion tab there that provides a bit further details, or if you want to revisit the project later, there's information there. And I'll also pop Brendan's email in the chat just so folks have that. Brendan, who started us off and is a great person with any additional questions you have.
Yeah, so again, really appreciate the time to let us come and just provide an update about this project, that it's moving forward, and just kind of what to expect. And yeah, I appreciate all of the time and coordination with the Consort team and OCDE and the rest of the CAG here for having us. We'll stay on if there are specific questions about our project.
Angela, I see your hand.
Yeah, you think the fact that I have a cold would stop me from asking so many questions.
No, we're glad you are. They're great questions.
So on the north side, when people are coming down 46, they come pretty fast and they pretty much come to a skid at that stop sign. Is there going to be like one of those blinking stop signs that I see over here on Blake Street to make them aware that they need to stop? Because myself and another woman almost got totaled a couple of weeks ago trying to cross over to get to the bus stop. And then the other thing I want to ask, so I don't have to ask 2 questions, is there any way of getting trash cans on both the north and south side, just so people could dump their trash instead of just tossing it underneath the bridge? And then I call poor Chris and say, can you clean it? Thank you.
As of now, we don't have the flashing stop signs at these locations, but it could be something that we look into. I know we're hopeful that with the curb extensions here, it's really going to pinch down that roadway width to really help slow the speeds. But I definitely hear what you're saying about approaching the stop sign there. So that's something we can continue to look at in the design and see if it's something that we can add in for an additional element. And then for the trash cans, we might be able to submit that as like a 311 request and see if that could be something permanent that like our solid waste group could help manage better.
And Angela, I am following up on those specific requests for the underpass. And while I'm doing that, I'll also submit that 311 request for the trash cans so that we can get a response there.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Angela, I just have just a little bit of clarification, just to make sure I heard that correctly. So this is the north side of I-70. So what you're saying is generally people on 46 that are going westbound aren't stopping. They're not seeing the stop sign early enough.
Yeah, I don't think they see it. I don't know.
Okay.
Because I don't drive, but I mean, I know crossing towards the bus stop, the number 8 bus stop, right there on 46 in Lincoln is, you're pretty much taking your life in your hands. And I look like about 18 times before I try to cross the street. But yeah, it's pretty dangerous. And then most especially in the winter, because it turns into an ice skating ring because of the shadow of the highway hits there and the snow never melts. So I don't even bother to take the bus after it's snowed over that way.
Okay. We can also, I'll go out there tomorrow and just drive it really quick just to see, because I do see the stop sign set back quite a bit, and we may be able just to move the stop sign and also, potentially look at, more of the advanced alert with the flashing. Thank you for the comment.
Other comments or questions? Okay. Thank you, team. We'll move on to our next item, which is the Washington Street Design and Construction, 47th to 52nd. And Mark?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna not speak because you guys want to hear from me. I'm going to let Beth take over. We're going to give you guys a little presentation on really just kind of what we're doing in the greenscape, right? That green area, the amenity zone between the sidewalks and the buildings. To kind of give you a little bit of update on kind of what are things you might see, you might look at, but I'm going to let Beth take it over from here.
Thank you, Mark. All right, so yeah, tonight's discussion is less about the whole design, the physical engineering of the street. And so we're going to get into some softer, maybe more fun ideas. So part of our streetscape has the opportunity to reflect our community culture, history, any other elements of things that we're interested in. And so so we went back to the Globeville neighborhood plan to start with, and we confirmed some of these pieces of info from it, which is Washington Street is an industrial spine. That was noted. Of course, we all kind of know that today. Globeville is really what built Denver, and that harkens back to all the industry and railroads that were part of this, really being some of the first industry in Denver. The Globeville area responsive neighborhoods are some of the most culturally rich and diverse, and we want to be able to celebrate that as we look at final design elements of the street. And then building connections between Washington and the river and finding opportunities to reflect this industrial history in our site development, making art part of it, cleaning things up, and basically beautifying the corridor. So we all have talked about the design of the corridor, and tonight's conversation really gets to what are some of these last elements that make this your street and part of this area. So with that, maybe we can move forward. So we have done, I'm going to move my screen just a little bit. We've been working on a fair amount of history for this area over the years, and starting with the connectivity study and working through different avenues of things. And we've pulled for you tonight just sort of a progression of the many stories that make up Washington. So we know there are more, obviously, but maybe we could spend a few minutes, and what we'd love to hear from you tonight is, do any of these really ring true with you as, yep, that is Washington. That is what it really was. I mean, I think the industry and the smelting, of course, is a big part of our early history, but there are a lot more stories that build Globeville and Washington over the years. And so these are some, take a look at these. But we would love for you to kind of weigh in on, when you think of this area, what stories do you think of? So if anyone has any ideas or thoughts they want to throw out right now, that would be great. Or if you just want to talk about some of these. One of our first trolley tracks came over this direction to support the growing neighborhoods around the smelting industry and the railroads. We had a lot, we've talked to a couple of the local historians, and we've heard a lot about entrepreneurship and innovation in terms of all the various businesses that were along this corridor over the years. They changed and they've evolved, but this was your early commercial and market strip as well. And then I think we've also, over the years, we've looked at flooding and the river and this low-lying topography and how that has impacted this roadway as well. Does anybody have anything else they want to throw out when you think of this area?
One of these that resonates more with you than when you think about the history, because so many of you have lived in the Global area for so long, the GES. I'm just wondering if there's any one of these that sort of inspires a specific memory for you. I just might mention, Beth, that the Eastern European immigration was one that is, I just remember from being born and raised in Denver that Eastern European immigration was one that my dad always talked lovingly about. I don't know what his history was in terms of that community, but learned a lot from him about the Eastern European immigration, and its really important role that it played in that community. I'm wondering if any of the others of you might have stories like that.
Well, I'll chime in if you can hear me. I agree with the Eastern European immigration and today's community. Those are the two that jump out at me first, because it started out, that's how Global started, right? Immigrants, and we continue to have immigrants into our community. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think also just looking at all the different things that have happened over the generations, it just shows the beauty and the tenacity and the resiliency of the people who continue to live here, because we have people living here from their great grandparents or their great great grandparents, and they still live in their homes. And you know, I talked with some of their apprentices at Prodigy Coffee House, and one of them, he's like, I want to live here my whole life. He's 20 years old. So that just shows how much it's ingrained in him, and his family continues to live here.
Yeah, that's a great statement.
Okay,
well, yeah, anything else? And we can come back to this too, but so let's move forward, because one of the things that we just sort of want to say, well, so what do we do with the history? And I'm sure there's more to it, and we can certainly continue to explore that with you even offline. One of the things Kat and I have talked about is just getting together with folks when it's feasible to just talk through some of these historical stories. So we're open to that. But in terms of moving forward on Washington Street and our final design process, we kind of thought we might tackle, well, what do those stories mean to Washington? I'm going to attempt to read these off of Kat's. Sorry, we're sharing screens a little bit tonight. Go back one. Okay, so connecting people to the deep history of industry and the river, and we've got some things in the way, and innovation in Globeville that reflect our working class. These are things that we pulled, from the neighborhood plan, but also clearly through all these stories and pictures. Hardworking nature of the community that we can incorporate and reference through materiality on the corridor. So it's just part of building that framework for what we like things on the corridor to look like. And by that, I mean within the streetscape. So signage and other things we're going to talk about in a minute. So with that in mind, I guess these are some similar questions, and I'm just curious if anyone has anything else to add here, but what is the legacy of Washington Street? It's industry and commerce and innovation in business and others, resiliency in the immigration population and community. What has this innovation in industry, how has that played a role in the community? And really, what else has maybe helped shape that? So if there's anything else here that you want to throw out, it's a good time. So we'll kind of keep going, but just feel free to jump in at any time. So what we want to do is take this understanding of community and history and how that has shaped our culture. And we don't pretend to be experts here, so we definitely need you to weigh in. And we kind of move forward into some of our thinking around how we lay out the street and what elements of this we could start to incorporate into the streetscape along the street. So with that, maybe we'll move forward. I'm going to have another one of the team members here talk a little bit about the locations along the street and how we can think about design elements as we move through the street locations. Keelan?
Thank you, Beth. We have 3 slides here of a sign location plan that we are developing throughout the corridor, and it's just a very long corridor, so we can't put it in one slide, obviously. And we don't need to drill down to every single proposed location, but these are opportunities where we can start to discuss the hierarchy of elements. And if you see in the lower left that we have a kind of a list of what we're proposing, kind of going from macro to micro, or from you know, larger scale vehicular down to pedestrian. And it's really that simple. And I think what's important here is that we have the two intersections of 47th and 51st Avenue, where those are kind of portals into the Globeville neighborhood, and there's opportunities to kind of turn up the volume on that, and to add vehicular wayfinding, which is not there currently, to get people to places like obviously the neighborhood, the parks and the rec center, etc. And then we're kind of drilling down into we're kind of drilling down into the concept that on the streetscape and the landscape improvements that that would be the opportunity for most of the pedestrian signs. So we have kind of three categories: technical, which Denver has a new Denver Moves bicycle wayfinding program that they've just launched, and we hope to utilize that to get some connections to the South Platte River Trail. And so we would like to use that new system. It's really a really fun. They use the Blue Bear, and that'd be really fun. And then we just want this to be kind of a program that kind of ties the streetscape together in a human form, and addresses both the pedestrian, the bicycle, and the vehicular wayfinding. It's really important that we have a palette of materials that addresses issues of durability and little or no maintenance, just because it's very, very important to the city, obviously. And then we'll get into the idea of what Beth was just speaking about, is how is history addressed, and how can we highlight these themes or these stories that in a way that might tell a story. Maybe since we have so many incredible photographs, maybe it's not heavy on narrative. And then again, I think it'd be nice to announce the entries to the global neighborhood, because right now there really is nothing. And so that's a real strong opportunity at those signaled intersections. And the next two slides just keep going on the continued corridor. And of course, the historic and or environmental interpretive is always associated with what we call the amenity zone. And so so that's really kind of and so what we'd like to do is, if there's a way to associate a story to a specific location, that would be great, but it doesn't have to be like that. Obviously the ones that talk about the performance of the landscape, those will be associated with the rain gardens, or the and so that's kind of very straightforward. And then that's pretty much it. It's just this is just kind of a conceptual idea of looking at where things go and what they say, but pretty much the vehicular wayfinding is the one we're kind of working out in terms of where we direct people. There are constraints in terms of content. We want to keep it brief, and you want, especially when you're in a car. And another last comment is that what we've learned in these urban situations is that we don't promote sign pollution. We like to consolidate as much as we can, and so people and bicycles, so pedestrians and bicycles, can utilize the vehicular wayfinding, which is very bold and scaled up for cars. But there's no reason in the world that we have to have a whole other system for pedestrians, because the vehicular signs work perfectly for that. But we will have a separate system for the bicycles. That's it.
Thanks, Keelan. Yeah, I think that's great. And I think one of the things that it shows us is there's a lot of opportunity along this corridor, a lot of different locations that we can work to incorporate some of these ideas. So I think our next slide, I think Will is going to speak briefly to some of these materials that might reflect this history. So that's kind of where we'd love for you to hear. Maybe these aren't them, but let's see what you guys have to say.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Beth. Hi, everyone. So what you're looking at here is a revised kind of graphic that has a little more detail on the preferred concept that we've worked through over the past number of months. And in the summer, we're at Argo Park and kind of shared with a couple other boards on green infrastructure and some other kind of performance and project goals. So anyways, as we kind of been working through this, and I really appreciate Beth kind of, channeling the conversation, building on the existing plan and kind of, some of the stories and what we've heard, because really we do see, Washington Street as this spine and an opportunity to really link and engage, both sides, east and west of the street, as well as past and present, in the history of the community. And I really value what I think it was Angela had mentioned, being a reflection of today's community. And so, I'm going to kind of work, I think, from about 2 o'clock, if this was a analog clock here, and work around. But this graphic really is to kind of prompt some conversation around materialization, as Beth mentioned. So really, we don't have a ton of space to work with, and I know we've worked on the organization of the streetscape, to land on kind of where we have these social nodes and where we can place planters and seat walls. But we hadn't really had an opportunity to bring forward materialization, and then kind of how that could be a reflection of the character of the neighborhood and that past and present. So within the planters themselves, we see an opportunity to really bring in some natural stone and rock to kind of connect to the river, and kind of tell a little bit of that story. Around the edges of planters, as these are water quality planters. In some instances, they're going to be slightly depressed from the adjacent sidewalk or curb. And so we'll have kind of a sort of kick rail and a safety edge deterrent that kind of helps to delineate, for everyone, kind of walking zone versus sort of planting area, and also can provide a little protection, from vehicular traffic as well, if in fact someone hopped over a curb. But this kind of metal work could be an opportunity to really connect to, the history of smelting, and maybe through using gold and or sort of a coppery finish or something like that. It could kind of tie to that, sense of, the history of manufacturing and making and working with kind of that raw material and kind of, landing with these precious metals and kind of that working of a material to get to that point. The bike racks in the streetscape also are actually a really fun opportunity to maybe express some, really unique, artful kind of link to either, some portion of that history with smelting. So what's shown is almost kind of a crucible kind of shape, but it could, be an opportunity to really link to some more, relevant, symbol for the community today. So we kind of see the bike racks as a really good opportunity for functional art, and something that could really animate and activate the streetscape. Then on the walls, if we just kind of jump to the lower portion of the slide, we have at our nodes, as we've been calling them, with this preferred concept, these social eddies, we have walls that kind of sit on the side that generally is, falling on the directional, like vehicular directional end. So here it's on, if we're looking north, it's on the north side, that the northeast side, that's where traffic is going, and also it's always coupled with a tree, so there would be shade. Though this is not really reflected in this graphic, but the walls represent an opportunity to have pattern potentially through some sort of embossed or form liner pattern, but also could integrate some steel. And I think one opportunity is to really kind of express sort of corrugated steel that can weather. Corrugation also turned on the side really kind of has movement and looks like water in a way, but vertically in place like this, it actually can help to stitch together some of the kind of existing architectural character, and structures present along Washington. And then on top of the walls and on certain curbs, as Keelan, I think, alluded to from an interpretive standpoint, we think that there's an opportunity to, reveal some of the performance qualities of some of these green infrastructure planters. So, whether it's telling a story about how many gallons, annually are kind of taken on by the planter and kind of slowed down and diverted before going to the Platte River as runoff, or whether it's about, number of additional trees and impact on urban heat island effect due to, the additional trees and improvements in the streetscape. These kind of metrics and ways of telling that story about performance and sustainability for the future of the community, I think is something that came through in uniquely Globeville and some of the early planning efforts that this project has a really great opportunity to help pull forward. So that's a little bit from a materials side. And maybe I'll pause there and then we can kind of go into, we have a couple of things on signage to maybe talk about.
Okay, yeah, let's pause there and let's just get a few reactions. Anybody is this kind of thing looking right? Or are these of interest, or does this just not hit home with you?
I think it all looks great. The only thing that I would be concerned about, I see it says aluminum with a gold texture finish, so you're not actually using actual gold, obviously, for that. And I only say that because I feel like with it being so like eye-catching, the only thing I would be concerned about is like people using it to skate on and other stuff like that. And then like how would repairs like would that be like cost efficient and things like that?
No, that's a great comment, Darius. Really appreciate that. So yeah, I think skate deterrence on, any kind of flat surfaces, it's not really depicted in this rendering, but is something that we'll want to be considerate of and mindful as we integrate those into the design, in a way that I think is effective and lasting and not just slapping a little metal kind of notch on top. So I don't think we're fully there yet, but also circling back on your original point, absolutely, this would be a durable, high performance kind of finish applied to the aluminum, to kind of seal it and protect it from elements and all of that. So it would not have any gold or anything like that. It just might be a satin kind of finish color that has that kind of warm yellow to kind of mirror it,
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's the only thing that popped to mind when you were going over it and I was looking at that was just the repairs to that, just because it does look really nice. And I know that could, catch some people's eye.
Yeah, it's a good point. Anyone else out there have a reaction to any of these ideas? All right. So let's finish up. Will, if you want to just briefly hit on the last piece with signage, I think it was.
Yeah.
And the color, that color idea.
Yeah, no, perfect. Yeah, kind of on the left side of the image now, there are a couple you know, things that are shown with sort of just a teal color at this point. But one idea we wanted to kind of pull forward, Washington Street is moving ahead along with quite a number of projects. And I think most of you, I recognize from other CAG meetings. So I think you're aware of all the exciting, you know, kind of improvements going on in the neighborhood, but Washington's tracking a little bit ahead. And one thing that kind of, I think with all of these concurrent projects, you know, as an opportunity is to address, you know, coordination between projects, not just from a material standpoint, but an opportunity from, you know, as we're talking about wayfinding a little bit tonight and you know, signage. One of those things is sort of identity and even a brand, from a logo standpoint to a color choice that, you know, is a sort of touch of, you know, or a thread that links spaces in the community together. So I think, you know, when we started on this effort quite some time ago now, last year, you know, as we're reviewing previous plans and all of that, I think there was it was identified as, you know, a potential to really kind of embrace and kind of create cohesion through future improvements in the public realm, but you know, it wasn't fully addressed head on. And so we wanted to bring forward, is that even something of interest? There are, I think, plenty of examples that you know, are yeah, inherent character, and Keelan, who's on the call, our wayfinding consultant, could rattle off. But yeah, we're really curious, is the sense of having a neighborhood color, a neighborhood brand, you know, and even potentially logo or emblem that could, you know, link these projects together and could be incorporated into even projects that haven't been contemplated yet at this point. Is that of interest or not? Yeah.
Anyone want to kind of weigh in on that? What's your reaction to a color, and is that the right color? or is just picking a color just maybe going to be difficult? I don't know. I'd be curious.
Well, I don't know about a color, but I love the idea of the different banners going maybe up and down Washington. I'm sad, of course, that they're not going to go south, but eventually that will hopefully happen. But I have to say, I'm just like, I mean, we've talked about this for so long, and see that we're getting closer to the fact that this could actually happen or will happen. I'm still going to say could.
It's will. It's will. It's will. It is going to happen, Angela.
So
something.
Well, yeah, that you know why, Beth. But yeah, so I love this. And I don't know, I guess the next time I'm out and about, maybe I'll pay attention to see if there's any particular color that's already here, and then send you all an email.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. And on that note, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just think what we were just initially throwing out was that what represents Gloveville, the word glove obviously is associated with the smelter, but it's also this diversity and representing the planet. So kind of a green color seemed to be a no-brainer. We didn't want to go with blue because that represents more of the river. And so we would just, you know, there could be a myriad, you know, if we want to go the green direction, there's a myriad of greens that we could look at. And it's a very alive color. It really can you know, communicate that. And then the idea of the maybe a monogram, it just kind of reminded me of all the Western towns that have their initial on the hill, even like the School of Mines with their M. That's how the communities identify themselves, and so that would be really fun to start to look at that as kind of something that can be interestingly repeated throughout the corridor as a reminder of where you are.
And Beth, do you see the comment in the
yeah.
AE's comment?
Yes, I'm trying to read. Yeah, we're the open call to artists. So I will remind you guys, just as part of this. So this piece we're talking about tonight is finishing the design of the street, right? It's like adding these last elements to the overall streetscape and really finalizing our overall street design. And then additionally, over the next year or so, and we'll have to nail down some details on this, but there is a Percent for Art program that we will be contributing to from this corridor. And so there will be an art effort as well. So in addition to just these last kind of finishing touches that we're talking about that give it some character, there will be an art Percent for Art that goes to this as well. And that is an open call to artists, in the same way that that was conducted for the 51st and 48th bridges. So that might be another opportunity to really build on some of the framework that we get in place at this stage. So definitely just keep that in mind. We don't have details of that yet. We don't have a plan of action yet, but that's coming as well. And I think to add, oh yeah, another comment, sure. I was just gonna say, to add to that more formal Percent for Art program, I think Kat and I have been working on this history quite a bit, and we're always open to further conversation. So just if that is a way to kind of define these histories better, that's also on the table. So I think right now we have these initial steps in the materials and the kinds of things you're seeing on the screen. And then we have this potential for maybe there's a color or a monogram or something that starts to show up in the area and then can be integrated into other things as well, potentially. And then we have the art program that's coming. And they're saying maybe consider a neighborhood crest concept, for example, instead of a logo. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I should probably clarify that box with a G is not remotely, it's not a logo suggestion or anything. But I think that's a really good comment, on considering, graphic kind of crest. One thing, actually, I don't know if it's even fully visible for those on their phone, but when we were looking at some old imagery along Washington Street, actually, Keelan came across an old sign that had sort of this beautiful, Keelan, do you want to describe it? The text and kind of, it's actually in the bottom left of the slide here, the same font, I believe.
Yeah, it was a billboard for kind of a flexible space that as you're approaching from 38th going north onto Washington, and it just had this beautiful type arrangement that said Washington, and so and it was it was the billboard's gone now, but it was probably from the mid 70s, I would assume, and so it was this kind of weathered billboard, and it was so nice. It was the only thing that it was double-sided, so it was the only thing as you went north and south that really kind of amplified the identity of Washington. And so that was there for many years. Obviously, they sold that building and it's no longer there.
So Beth, I see you put in the chat how to contact you if anybody has any additional thoughts.
Yeah, just if you have thoughts specifically about what you're seeing on the screen, that could be part of the streetscape, or if you have additional thoughts on just history and culture that we might want to be rolling into the collection that we're building, that's useful too. And I think what we'd like to do, if we can, is get this on the website so that maybe we can get some additional input from others. I know we don't have a lot of people on the call tonight, and so we can kind of float this around to some of the other groups and just kind of share these ideas and see if we can't collect a little more confirmation or other ideas of what you're seeing. So that's something maybe we'll work on in the next couple of weeks so that we can keep the design team rolling.
Absolutely.
Okay, does anyone have any more questions on this piece? Otherwise, that might do it for us for tonight.
Thanks, Beth. Also, we have up here Mark's contact information. I know many of you have already worked with Mark, so we'll give you his contact information once again. Chris, do you want to talk about the next meeting?
Yes. Our next meeting is going to be on October 26th, and we're anticipating that it will be virtual. So feel free. We're going to try to get the word out, and just really appreciate everybody's time this evening. And I know that it takes a lot of time and effort, and like Angela, you mentioned, definitely like a really deep appreciation on our side of all of the amazing years and years and years of effort from community to make this vision get realized. And it is really exciting to be a part of this process at this point, and just really appreciate the collaboration.
Great, thank you, Chris. Okay, I know we kept you over by 3 minutes. I hope you all have a great weekend. Seems like we're going to have good weather, so thank you for being with us tonight. Good night, everybody.
Have a great evening, everyone.